you have our source of content, right? Whether it's compliance, risk and safety, culinary, talent acquisition. We bucket content theoretically into 3 different buckets: compliance, functional technical skills, or leadership development. Then it falls down to the controls layer. Well, in my head, there's 2 forms of content. There's push content that we are pushing out to the organization, and that will be mandatory. And that will have a defined audience. And we will track you. And we will auto-nag you the LMS, right, until you're sick of us and you complete that. And we will escalate that auto-nag to the president if we have to. Well, guess what? There has to be an approval workflow. Because we, learning, whatever, we don't make that decision. So we guide the subject matter experts from the different functions as far as what the approval workflow needs to be. And then from there, we help them define the audience to a finer group as possible, right? Because there's nothing more annoying than getting a notification from your learning management system that says, you need to do this because it's required of you. You'll look at the subject and you're like, wow, that makes absolutely no sense for what I do, right? The other piece of it is pull content. That's content that's interesting, that you need, but you have the ability to pull that content. So if you think about culinary and you want to learn how to make pizza, and you happen to sit in the uniforms division that has nothing to do with making pizza, but you're just really interested and intellectually curious, you can go into the LMS, you can pull down whatever content you want. Content is open from line of business to line of business. You have to search for it. We don't put it in front of you because then it'll get confusing. But anybody can pull down any type of content that they want, right? Knowledge open, all that happy stuff. So this is the general way that we manage our learning management. So let me stop there, and I'll take some questions. Easy ones, right? I'm not podcast. Any questions thus far?
What kind of reporting, scorecards,
A lot.
ROI are you putting out there now?
So from an ROI perspective, right, personal opinion on ROI, right? Sometimes it takes more effort and time and human capital to crank out ROI than it's worth, right? So let's not waste our time because we don't have enough people on deck to do anything that wastes our time. We already made the business case for, wow, guess what? We're spending $500,000 in year 2, and I'm not going to get into what we paid for the LMS, but what I will tell you, year 1 cost us somewhere close to that. Year 2, it drops below that. So return on investment, yeah, it's already done. So we're not worried about that. As far as reporting, we do reporting 2 different ways, right? There's lots of reporting that's canned in the learning management system. Plus, you could do reporting with a tool called BITS, some Microsoft badass reporting application that we have to go to IT to get them to write that. But what we've also done is we have built an extract out of the LMS into our Cognos business intelligence platform. So any information that needs to be reported on and put into a scorecard format, because it's not just all about training, there's other things that create the picture of the State of the Union. All that information gets extracted, pumped into Cognos, and we do it that way.
So how many languages did you roll out in that?
So to date, it's in French and English. We're getting ready to launch Chile probably in the next 30 days. We have the language packs set up for 11 other languages ready to go as the data becomes available from the countries. And our only language that we're short thus far is Korean. And our business in Korea is relatively small. We knew that Korea wasn't going to be coming online near term. So we didn't want to buy the language pack because it would have been another $40,000 with some total to buy like another dozen languages, and I needed one, the other 11 I don't care about. So it didn't make sense to buy that. But the nice thing too with the learning management system is it's not just the graphic user interface for the learner being the language, but the administrative portion, the back end, is also in that language as well. So it makes it very easy to be able to administrate it locally in each of the countries.
What lessons learned do you have in the implementation
period, and specifically the change management piece with the staff?
So let me start with change management first. The change management piece was relatively easy, right? Because there's more demand from the organization to get this thing up and running than we knew what to do with, right? So we were in a very lucky position from that perspective. And we were having trouble keeping up with the demand from the businesses to push content out, to get everything down to the domain level so the businesses can start using it. So from that piece, that was relatively easy. The approach that we took from a change management / communications perspective is we did not communicate wide and deep. Oh, we just bought a learning management system. Ooh, oh, look at all the bells, the whistles, it does all this, blah, blah. And the reason was because it's the first time we're using it. It doesn't do all that much yet. To date, we're using it for delivering e-learning classes. And actually, we've done some instructor-led training with it today. A large instructor-led diversity initiative is going live. So we're nowhere near using it to its full and glorious functionality. So change was easy. We communicate initiative by initiative, and we're even very careful the way we've set up the landing page of the learning management system. And it's got all the different wireframes that you can put up with all the different links and all that. None of that. Your inbox and your catalog, and that's about all you're going to see if you go on the landing page of the LMS. What we've done, though, is use deep links. So rather than putting people to the front page of a system where they go around, explore, confuse themselves, that the notification emails contain a deep link that take you right to the content that you need to see, kind of following that Google methodology, put you 1 or 2 clicks away from the information that you need. We've even skipped the whole registration process in the LMS, and for like food safety, we've pre-registered all of our audiences. Lessons learned: data passing, data passing, data passing, data passing. The quality of the data is an issue for us, right? So we have to be very creative in the way we leverage the data and look at the data. We had issues with how you build the feeds, because SumTotal is interesting in the way they like to have the feeds built, and getting our HRIS people to understand what that's supposed to look like, then getting the people in enterprise system development to write the code or subcontract to someplace that's going to write the code and all the testing. We went through a lot of high-pressure situation with lots of tight deadlines because the data push into the LMS was nowhere near what it needed to be. So I would tell you that the data cleanliness, B, the building of the data. The other piece, too, is single sign-on, which was some interesting challenges for us. Because what I didn't want to do is give somebody, yet again, another username and password, right? Because I have like a sticky note of all of my passwords for all the different systems. And we do have a single sign-on environment. However, single sign-on standard, right? That's kind of like SCORM, right? It ain't really a standard. And it's squishy to say the least. So it took a lot to get what we called SAML, single sign-on, to connect and work with what the vendor called SAML, single sign-on, to the point where we almost broke the contract with them because one of their data fields, like in their email field, in the SAML piece, it can only hold 22 characters. And ARAMARK.com, blah, 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 blah. You have a relatively short first and last name. By the time you're done, you're at 22 characters. That would have been problematic for us. So we had to find a lot of unique workarounds and twist the vendor's arm to make some modifications to their standards, some of which didn't even make sense. I mean, 22 fields doesn't make sense. So a lot of it is technological of the implementation issues that we had. Yes?
Was that the ServeSafe site? Because that was a pretty clunky site.
No.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, that was SumTotal and our .NET environment.
Oh, okay.
It didn't like each other. So, but we are using ServeSafe, and we don't use Our food safety stuff is no longer on our National Restaurant Association So if I say NRA, not the National Rifle Association, it's National Restaurant Association.
You do that, so.
Liviu, I know you want to move on, but a quick question. Can you share with us your selected LMS?
Sum total.
Oh, it is sum total?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's sum total, that what they call their results on demand rod, and it's their software as a service model. Right?
And what were your top criteria? What were the winning features?
There were none. So selection, that's an interesting piece. There are two vendors that I brought in that I thought would meet our needs, right? Because we didn't want to go through some protracted, elongated RFP process, right? We're a big company. There's not that many big primary players in the LMS space. You got SumTotal, you got Saba, you got Cornerstone, right? Your usual players if you look at Gartner stuff. So we brought in SumTotal and we brought in Cornerstone. We built 6 or 7 use cases. We put in one day, had one vendor in the morning, one vendor in the afternoon. We put them both through the same use cases. We have scorecards, right, numbers, math, blah, blah. At the end of the day, we generated some pretty charts to see how the scoring went. And I will tell you, if I was making an autonomous decision, I would have picked Cornerstone, right? Because I like Cornerstone flavor better than I do SumTotal. I like the reporting better, the look and feel, all that stuff. They started from software as a service, blah, blah, blah stuff, right? However, obviously, I didn't get my way, right? But the important part of that is what I like is interesting, but I'm not the one that uses it every day, right? I got to live with maintaining it, but it's more important what fits to the field. So our selection group was made up of operators, HR people, vice presidents of compliance. I probably had about 14 or 15 people in the room in the selection criteria. By the time everything got done, at the end of the day, the scoring between the two vendors was within a couple tenths of each other, right? So here I am. I was hoping oh my God, look at the numbers. We're going to go with this one. So, what came to mind is, because I'm a car guy, I said, look, obviously the metrics don't get us to help us make a decision. So what this comes down to is which one do we like more, right? Because it's all about like. And I said, think of it this way: you got a Mercedes and you got a BMW, right? Both fine German sports sedans, both pretty much do the same thing, but they drive a little bit differently. The buttons look a little bit different, right? They all have kind of the same functionality, but you do it a little bit differently. So, show of hands, who liked SumTotal? Show of hands, who liked Cornerstone? 13 to 3, I signed the contract 2 days later. I mean, that was the process we went through, and at the end of the day, again, I didn't get what I wanted. But that's the least important part of that, because, could I have swayed the decision? Probably. Did I want to? No. Because it's more important that the organization gets what it likes. And also at ARAMARK, this was our first one, right? So if you put something too sexy or too sophisticated in front of us, we have like technology. Oh my God, that's too much. Heads explode. It is what it is. That's how we think.
You can always say it wasn't your choice to forget that. My husband does that to me. He has me pick, so that at the end.
Yeah, I do that at home. Doesn't work there well. So it's always my fault either way. One last question.
How are you getting your employees in front of computers to do e-learning? I imagine you have a lot of hourly employees.
We bought like 20 million computers. Yeah, that 13 billion, our profit's negative now. Because I bought lots of computers. I'm going to get into that here in the next piece. So the next piece we're going to talk about is food safety. So 8 billion of our dollars come from food, right? Food safety is paramount and core to our business. There's nothing really more important than food safety. Because if food is unsafe, it creates danger for our clients, customers, children, right? We touch so many children in schools every day and patients in hospital. Food safety is absolutely nothing new to us. What's new in this initiative, though, is we are centralizing and standardizing that methodology domestically as well as internationally. And if you think about some of the countries that we have little dots on,